Hello, everybody. So today we have a few videos coming out. We are looking at Rick, Florida Senator Rick Scott's 11-point plan to rescue America, as you can see on screen now, and we are also looking at the current massive inflation that came about as a result of American ban on Russian oil and all the aftermath from that, all the prices, all of that stuff. So we'll kick right in with this 11-point plan to rescue America. So Rick Scott is the junior senator from Florida. He's a bit of a moron. He was their governor. Uh, Mitch McConnell's already come out and said that he doesn't like this. I saw Laura Ingraham said that this was a very populist plan, which it's not. This is like the opposite of populism, as you will soon see. Let's just get on with having a look at this. Also, if my voice sounds a bit weird, I'm about 70% sure I've got COVID, so although rat tests don't agree. So, whatever. Let's have a look at this. Dear fellow Americans, the militant left now controls the entire federal government. He is what? 9 words in, and he's already so far off the mark, it's not funny. The militant left now controls the entire federal government. I wish. The militant left now controls the entire federal government, the news media, Jesus, academia, Hollywood, and most corporate boardrooms. Fuck. This guy is actually stupid. But they want more. They are redefining America and silencing their opponents. Some very authoritarian liberals are. Actual leftists, to the biggest extent, don't have any power and are silenced as much, if not more, than the far right are. Among the things they plan to change or destroy are American history, not true, patriotism, border security, the nuclear family, gender, traditional morality, capitalism, fear, fiscal responsibility, opportunity, rugged individualism. Sorry, is he trying to say that rugged individualism is a good thing? Jesus. Judeo-Christian values. Jesus. Dissent. No, we're not. Free speech. No, we're not. Color blindness. Some small aspects of the woke left are, but that's not most people. Most people on the left just say what he's pretending to say, which is color blindness. Like, let's just not care. Let's try to fix the existing problems with race. And then when we've done that, we can then move on to a system of colorblindness. That is not controversial among leftists at all. Law enforcement. No. We're trying to make it more reasonable like every other developed country. Religious liberty. Hold up, you're the one who's saying that people should have to... you're the one who's saying that people are... that the left are trying to destroy Judeo-Christian values as if those are the only good values, because like secularism, atheism, Islam, Buddhism, all of these aren't acceptable, but Judeo-Christian values are. But apparently we're the ones who are saying that religious liberty, we're the ones attacking religious liberty. Parental involvement in public schools and private ownership of firearms, that's fair. Is this the beginning of the end of America? Only if we allow it to be. The Biden administration's unprecedented combination of radical left-wing policies, I wish, and gross incompetence, yeah, it's true, is bringing great harm to the American people. Roaring inflation, yeah. The dangerous mismanagement of our border. The disastrous escalation of spending and debt. the shamefully inept withdrawal from Afghanistan. I might get back to that. The use of public schools for left-wing indoctrination. You're trying to indoctrinate them, as we get to, you're trying to indoctrinate them with right-wing propaganda. You don't have a problem with propaganda. It's just that you don't like the what you view as the propaganda that's being shared in schools. Oh my god. And incredible lawlessness on our streets. Americans are angry, and rightfully so. As a result, the American people are very likely to put Republicans in control of the Senate and the House in 2022. That's true. But then what? If Republicans return to Washington's business as usual, if we have no bigger plan than to be a speed bump on the road to America's collapse, we don't deserve to govern. This dude is actually so stupid. Republicans are like one of the two major causes, along with Democrats, for what he views as America's collapse. But, and you seriously think the Republicans are the solution? Jesus. We must resolve to aim higher than the Republican Congress that have come before us. Yeah? Americans deserve to know what we will do. Our nation's future can be bright, and this is my plan to make it so. Now it needs your ideas. With your guidance and advice, we will work every day to make this plan better. I'll warn you, this plan is not for the faint of heart. It'll be ridiculed by the woke left. I mean, I'm left, but mocked by Washington insiders and struck fear in the heart of Republicans. At least I hope so. It's a start. What this dude is literally saying is that he has no populist. What he's about to do is not even remotely populist. An 11-point plan to rescue America. I'll just skip through that and read the details. Our kids will say the Pledge of Allegiance, salute the flag, and learn that America is a great country and choose the school that best fits them. This is what I say about right-wing propaganda. They don't have a problem with the left-wing indoctrination. It's not the indoctrination that they don't like. It's not, well, at least what they think is indoctrination. They don't have a problem with that. What they have a problem with is the fact that they don't like what people are being indoctrinated with. They have no problem with trying to tell kids that I'm right and the other team are wrong, and I'm going to spend 18 years of your life trying to tell you why that's the case. They don't care about that as long as they get to tell kids what's right and what's wrong, politics-wise. So that's what the saying the Pledge of Allegiance, it's like some North Korea level shit. Saluting the flag, again, no other Western country does that. Learn that America is a great country. There are things about America I love. There are also things about America I hate. So the First Amendment, love it. Martin Luther King, love it. There are so many things about America that are great. There are also so many things that aren't. War crimes, corporations like buying the government, literally. There are so many things on both sides. Just to say that America is a great country is just so blanketly. It's just so blank and leaves no room for nuance. And choose the score that best fits them. Yeah, no problem with that. We will inspire patriotism and stop teaching the revisionist history of the radical left. Is that the bit where we teach both sides? Where you say, like, here are all the good things and here are all the bad things. Say what you will about them. Our kids will learn about the wisdom of the US Constitution, the wisdom of slavery, the Bill of Rights, and the Founding Fathers. Public schools will focus on the 3 Rs. Not indoctrinate children with a critical race theory or other political ideology. You're teaching them why America's great, why everything about America is great, why everything that the American presidents have done in the past, be it the Founding Fathers or people before the abolition of slavery or before the abolition of Jim Crow, you're saying that whatever they did in those areas is great, because that's what you're trying to teach them. Oh my word, you don't care about indoctrination. You care about what the kids are indoctrinated with, and you want it to be you who's the indoctrinator, not the other team, because that's how they view politics. Parents, not government, will choose the best schools for their kids. whatever. We will enact equal opportunity in education, school choice, so no child will be sent to a failing school simply because of their zip code. Yeah, I want some details. Kids in public schools will say the Pledge of Allegiance. North Korea, North Korea, North Korea. I live in New Zealand. Not once. I don't think we even have a Pledge of Allegiance, let alone having been told to say it in public schools. Stand for the national anthem. I don't think I've sung the national anthem in the school since about in the last 7 or 8 years. And honour the American flag. We must foster national unity. We will open schools to our parents. Parents must have the right to know what their children are being taught, who is teaching them, and which organisations are receiving school contracts. I'm uncomfortable with organisations receiving school contracts generally. So, yeah. The FBI, Department of Justice, and all government entities will be expressly forbidden from intimidating parents who dare to speak their minds at school meetings. Culture war, culture war, culture war. Public schools will teach our children to love America because while not perfect, thank you, it is exceptional, it is good, and it is a beacon of freedom in an often dark world. America supports 73% of the world's dictatorships militarily. You don't get to talk about being a beacon of freedom while arming dictators. You don't get to talk about being a beacon of freedom after you've killed 1 million people in Iraq. You don't get to talk about freedom when you've got the most people in prison in the world in your country. No child will be taught they are inherently racist. Culture war, culture war, culture war, no one's teaching that. Teacher tenure at public schools must be eliminated because it protects inadequate teachers, not good teachers. Tenure's not the problem. Tenure's not the problem. We will not allow political or social indoctrination in schools. You are trying to indoctrinate them with American exceptionalism. You're trying to indoctrinate them with America's the best country in the world. You're trying to indoctrinate them. Oh. No public school will be allowed to discriminate against voluntary prayer or force children to check their faith at the door. Oh my word. Christians aren't oppressed in the United States of America. You are the majority of the country. You don't get to claim oppression while being in charge of everything. We will close the Federal Department of Education. Education is a state function. I agree that education should have more power at the state level, but to say that the federal government should have... Sorry, there's a moth flying around a few... So, yeah. But to say that the federal government should have no role in education is just stupid. It will be America's goal to be number one in the world in math and science by 2030. You don't get to say that when when your party doesn't really care or even believe in, for the most part, climate change. You don't get to talk about science. And you haven't actually told us how you're going to do that. You've told us about kids not being taught inherent racism and tenure and political and social indoctrination. You haven't actually told us how you're going to be number one in the world in math and science, which you're not going to be in the next 8 years. Government will never again ask American citizens to disclose their race, ethnicity, or skin color on any government forms. It's kind of useful information for a census, isn't it? Just to know, like, what proportion of the population is what race, just so you can understand. We're going to eliminate racial politics in America. Fuck off, moth. No government policy would be based on race. People will not be judged by the color of their skin, by the content of their character. Dude's literally quoting Martin Luther King, a socialist, a democratic socialist who opposed the Vietnam War. You don't get to quote him when he agrees with precisely fuck all of what you are saying. We're all made in the image of God. We're all made in the image of the imaginary sky wizard. To judge a person on the color of their epidermis is immoral. I agree with that. We will stop dividing people by race, skin color, ethnicity, or country of origin, which is an immoral and corrosive habit of the woke crowd. I agree that there is a very, very small proportion of people who are woke per se who want to segregate. That's also you're like focusing on like 1 to 2% of leftists who have no power. We will be a nation where people will be judged by the conscience. Okay. Again, you don't get to quote Martin Luther King. Ban the box. Government will not ban the box. Government will not ask American citizens to disclose their race, ethnicity, or skin color in any government form. Again, it's useful for a census, isn't it? No government policy can be based on race or ethnicity. Well, it can be based on defeating racism, can't it? Our military will engage in zero diversity training, teachers, and critical race theory, or any woke ideological indoctrination that divides our troops. Our fighting force must be completely united and completely colorblind. Yeah, but there's a lot of people in the military who are very, very racist. So when they have to work alongside people of other races, that could be a problem. Military leadership that prioritizes racial politics over the security of our country must be relieved of their duty. Yeah, sure. Colleges and universities that favour or discriminate against students based on race or ethnicity in the application process will be ineligible for federal funding and will lose their tax exempt status. Um, Look, I agree that students should not be accepted based on their race, but I think there needs to be a lot of work done on public schools in areas that have a high proportion of where a high proportion of the population are African American. There needs to be a lot of work done in those public schools before we even get to colleges and universities. Government will base hiring decisions based on qualifications, not quotas of any kind. Sure. America will strive to provide equal opportunity for everyone, but will not guarantee equal outcomes. You don't do that. You don't do anything like that. Oh, the people who buy the government, the corporations who buy the government, have. Elon Musk received a $5 billion subsidy from the government a few years ago, despite paying less than that in taxes. You cannot tell me that he has an equal opportunity to someone who started their life homeless and didn't really get to go to school, didn't get lunch, didn't get breakfast, got one meal a day, didn't get to go to college. If they did get to go to college, they ended up 50 to 100 grand in debt. Um, that you don't get to say that you believe in equal opportunity when you support these things. We simply do not give a damn what anyone's skin color is. That's the colorblind future America deserves. Sure. The soft on crime days of coddling criminal behaviour will end. We will refund. We will refund and respect the police because they, not the criminals, are the good guys. What I read here is we're going to go really hard on drugs, even harder on drugs. America is one of the most tough on drugs countries in the world. Like in the United States, people given life in prison for few ounces of drugs, and that is just beyond ridiculous. These people never harmed anyone, and yet you're punishing them with their life. That's what I read when I read about soft on crime. Refunding the police. Police are being funded more than ever. They're literally sending their military grade equipment. They're sending it to Ukraine because they've got so much. Okay. We will enforce our laws, all of them, and increase penalties for theft and violent crime. We will clean up our cities and stop pretending that crime is okay. Nobody pretends that. Absolutely no one's pretending that violent crime is okay. We have zero tolerance from mostly peaceful protests that attack police officers, loot businesses, and burn down our cities. Go after the protesters who do that because that's criminal. Don't ever go at the other protesters who are doing nothing wrong. Like, I don't have a go at people who are trying to like stop the steal, but I do have a go at people who broke in on January 6th. Same way as people who have a problem with the Black Lives Matter marches in 2020 should sure go after the people who did the right, who did the looting and attacking um, fellow citizens. But don't have a go at the people who are just marching and chanting Black Lives Matter. They didn't harm anyone. We will fund the police and stop all efforts to defund or reimagine policing. Um, Police funding has increased over the last year. We'll bring back respect for the people who put their lives on the line to keep us safe. Jesus. We will support mandatory strict minimum sentences for all assaults, including involving serious injury to law enforcement officers. Okay, so we're 3 points in, and all I've seen is cultural bullshit that distracts from real life problems. We will strengthen qualified immunity. Fuck. We will protect police officers from accountability for their actions. We will demand a nationwide crackdown on theft and violent crime by imposing stiffer penalties so we can restore law and order to our city streets. I think that most of the people who commit a violent crime, they don't really care what the penalty is. They just assume they're never going to get caught. So they still do whatever they do, just in the assumption they're not going to be caught. So, because, most crimes aren't really ever solved. So, to making penalties harsher is just sort of not really solving any problem. We'll force prosecutors to prosecute. At present, many prosecutors in big cities are allowing criminals to go free with no justice, and they're doing it on purpose. Again, that's just referring to like people who sold drugs and don't actually harm anyone. People who take drugs who don't harm anyone. We will make it a federal crime for any prosecutor, including the US Department of Justice, to pursue prosecution based on political ideology. That's already illegal, mate. We will eliminate no-knock warrants in any case that does not involve violent crime. Eliminate no-knock warrants, full stop. They cause so much more harm than they do, like actually solve crimes. We will increase penalty for spousal abuse and failure to pay child support. Sure. We will enact Marsy's law, which ensures victims of crimes have rights and constitutional protections equal to those who commit crimes. Okay. We will oppose every attempt to deny Second Amendment freedoms and defend our gun rights always at all costs. Background checks do not harm your Second Amendment freedoms. I disagree with people wanting to ban firearms and most guns generally. But people who push for like mild background checks, that's not like some kind of massive attack on your personal freedom. We will secure our border, finish building the wall, and name it after President Donald Trump. This dude he's like a sycophant for Trump. He's like trying to clamor for Trump's approval. And it's frankly embarrassing. Nations have borders. We should give that a try. President Donald Trump's plan to build a wall was right. We welcome those who want to join us in building the American dream, immigrants who want to be Americans, not change America. That's like trying to say that. So what he's really saying there is we like the white people from like Europe and like Australia and New Zealand and wherever, but we don't like those brown people from South America. They're bad, but those white people they can come. They can come. We're a stronger nation because we are a nation of immigrants, but immigration without assimilation makes us weaker. Politicians from both parties talk big about border security and do nothing. We're done with that. Countries with borders, we will control ours and secure it once and for all. That's not a policy. No one will enter without our permission. We lock our doors at night. Again, that's not a policy. Many potential immigrants love America. Those who don't will not be allowed to come here. Why would they be coming to America if they don't hate it? If they hate it? There's like, how many people come to America because they're like, I really want to destroy this country? I could probably count it on one hand. We will employ military assets on our borders as needed. Border security is not simply a matter of domestic policy, it's also a matter of national security. I agree with the latter part that it's a matter of national security, but you're putting the military on the southern border. I don't understand the logic of this dude. He's like so moronic, it's unbelievable. Immigrants will not be eligible to collect unemployment benefits or welfare for the first 7 years after arriving. So basically, we're telling people that if they come here, they pretty much have to be wealthy Europeans. And if they're not, Sodom, they don't deserve welfare because they're an immigrant. But people born in America do deserve it. It's just again, it's stupid. We'll stop incentivizing people to come to New Zealand to America to receive government benefits. We have plenty of welfare recipients. We need productive citizens instead. Jesus Christ Almighty. My man is actually a moron. He's like trying to find as many cultural things and posing them and pretending that they're actually like policy solutions to serious problems. Talk about healthcare. That's like so much more important than the education bullshit he put up the front. Education's a serious problem, but like there are so many other ways to solve the education problem than that nonsense he put up the top. We oppose cultural segregation. We believe in the melting pot where people from many backgrounds go all in on becoming Americans. One nation under God, invisible, with liberty and justice for all. You don't even believe that. I think I missed a point, which is we will oppose all comprehensive immigration reform measures until we stop the lawlessness at our border and our border is secured. Okay, whatever. We will grow America's economy, starve Washington's economy, and stop socialism. I wish there was socialism for you to stop. I wish there was whatever you define as socialism, but there's not. You've got a corporatist right wing who would have been like based on his policies as a Republican from 20 years ago, and you're pretending that's some kind of like scary socialism. It's not. Socialism is un-American, always leads to poverty and oppression. Yeah, look at those poor Swedes and Danish people and Portuguese people. They live in such a worse society than the United States. We will stop it. We will shrink the federal government, reduce the government workforce by 25% in 5 years, sell government buildings and assets, and get rid of the old, slow, closed, top-down, government-run everything system we have today. So basically, you're complaining about people, like, as he does throughout this, about people being, like, lazy and just being, like, just staying at home because they want to. Meanwhile, he's talking about laying off 25% of the government workforce, which is millions of people. Socialism we treat as a foreign combatant which aims to destroy our prosperity and our freedom. I thought you believed in free speech. Now you're saying that people with a different economic perspective as you will be treated as foreign combatants. Other than essential core functions, government should not be doing anything that the private sector can do better and cheaper, which is pretty much nothing. We will apply the do it better test. If American businesses can serve the American people and better and cheaper than the government, the work goes to them. Just about in all circumstances, they can't. No government assistance unless you are disabled or aggressively seeking work. If you can work but refuse to work, you cannot live off the hard work and sweat of your fellow Americans. So this is the kind of guy who refuses to raise the minimum wage. Who's telling people you should work for $7.25 an hour, which is like not even like that's not even half of the living wage. You should work for that, and if you don't, you receive nothing. You should work for half the ability to live. Oh my, this dude. There are very few documents that I've read that have made me like violently sick as much as this one has. We will require truth in governing. If the government passes a law that does not achieve what it promised, the program will be shut down. The New Deal didn't work for 3 or 4 years, and then it became one of the greatest legislative victories of the 20th century. So basically what this is just stupidity. We will balance the federal budget. It can be done. States do it all the time. Most of US debt is owed to American billionaires. It's not owed to China or Japan like most people believe. It's owed to American billionaires, most of whom don't pay their fair share of tax. Make them pay tax and don't pay back their loans. Tax them more, and then you might be able to get somewhere about federal about balancing the federal budget. What he's actually going to do, though, is he's going to basically punish poor people because they don't want to tax their donors. If Congress does not pass a budget, the members of Congress do not get paid. Full stop. What? Other than disaster relief, the federal government must stop spending money on non-essential state and local projects until the budget is balanced. We're going to make life worse until this like generic budget thing is balanced. So we're going to make your life worse to punish our ineptitude at taxing the rich. Eliminate truly non-essential government employee positions because they are non-essential. No. Implement the line item veto. It works in state capitals. It will work in Washington. I don't really know what that means, so I'm not going to make a comment. Expedite all federal and permit applications to be granted or denied within 30 days. I mean, bureaucracy exists for a reason. So I think putting an arbitrary time limit on it's a bit stupid. All Americans should be paying some income tax to have skin in the game, even if a small amount. Currently, over half of Americans pay no income tax. My man, I thought you were like the populist guy. I thought you were the one who like cared about poor people. Now you're telling them the majority. These are people who pay local tax. They pay federal. They pay state tax. They don't have money to give to the federal government. What your party's supposedly the one that cares about like taxing poor people less, but yet you want to tax them more. You're trying to tell people that they should pay more tax. I've got no problem with telling people who have like more than enough, who make more than enough income to pay more tax. I would force them to. But this is a policy that overwhelmingly harms poor people who don't have any money to give you. Prohibit debt ceiling increases about a declaration of absent a declaration of war. Austerity, 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 austerity. We're going to make poor people's lives worse because we can't tax the rich. We will eliminate all federal programs to be done locally and enact term limits for federal bureaucrats and Congress. Many government agencies should be moved out of Washington or shut entirely. Yesterday's old government is fundamentally incompatible with the digital era. The permanent ruling class in Washington is bankrupting us with inflation and debt, so they must be removed. For you to have more, Washington must have less. Enact term limits for the Washington ruling class, 12-year limits for Congress and government bureaucrats, exceptions for national security reasons. So I feel like this is a solution absent of a problem. So obviously there's a massive problem with the establishment and people who have been there for way too long. But the way to fix that is to give better candidates against them. Stop the gerrymandering. And stop like political donations, which keeps a lot of them there. Stop like big political donations from these big corporations. And you might actually get somewhere. So I think the big problem in Congress is that they are corrupt. People are still going to be corrupt, whether it's person A or person B. If they're both corrupt, it doesn't matter which one of them is there. They're still corrupt. So the 12-year term limits is sort of a bit. It doesn't really work because of that problem. They're still going to be corrupt, so there's not really any benefit. Begin paying down debt. Debt equals politicians stealing from our future and stealing from all of us right now with inflation. Inflation isn't caused by debt. Get that through that thick skull, Rick Scott. Inflation is primarily because of the supply chain issues associated, as is also because of corporate greed, and there are some other issues like with each part of it. We'll get onto that in our next segment. Forbid politicians from becoming lobbyists and cashing on their public service. Agreed. Eliminate federal programs that be done locally. No. Move most government agencies out of Washington into the real world. The physical location of these agencies isn't the problem. The problem is that they are incompetent. If they're in Washington or New York or Tech or Houston, or that's not the problem. The problem is that they're not very good at their jobs. Sell off all non-essential government assets, building and land, and use the process to pay down our national debt. Only those that aren't being used, and I'd like make them like homeless shelters. All federal legislation sunsets in 5 years. If a law is worth keeping, Congress can pass it again. That's just a stupid rule, because what you're basically saying is that you're stopping people from having an actual impact, because you're relying on Congress passing it again. All government bids and contracts should be publicly available on the internet. Agreed. If government fails to comply with the law, citizens must have the right to sue them to force them to comply. Yeah, within reason. No government employee can make more than 5 times the national median income individual. Yeah, I agree. Well, okay, I'm sort of a bit conflicted on this issue, to be fair. Because on the one hand, I think these politicians are doing fuck all, and we're paying them such a massive amount. But on the other hand, they get like what we're basically incentivizing them is corruption. We're basically telling these Congress people that you can't make money from us, so you know, find another way. So what are they gonna do? Stock, because that's not illegal yet, as it should be. They're gonna buy stocks with their insider knowledge, and they're going to take like massive donations and bribes, legal bribes, from these big corporations like they did in California, that meant that universal healthcare wasn't passed. Crystal Ball over at Breaking Points did a great segment on that a few weeks ago, which is well worth a look at. We will bar the federal government from using your tax dollars for advertising campaigns. Yep. We will drastically simplify the tax code and eliminate the advantage of those who can afford tax lawyers and lobbyists. I agree, but you need to actually tax the rich then. We will immediately cut the IRS funding and workforce by 50%. Again, you complain about people not doing their job, but then you try to fire them. The IRS, I would like to have like a team on all these billionaires around the clock. I don't care if Joe the plumber doesn't pays $300 less than he should. I care if Jeff Bezos pays a few billion less than he should. We will allow veterans to choose how they access healthcare, either through the VA or private providers, whichever they. Everyone should get healthcare. If they want private healthcare on top of that as supplemental care, that's fine. But everyone should have a guaranteed access to healthcare without any paperwork. They should just be able to walk into a hospital and get treated, and not then have a massive bill at the end like every other developed country. Force Congress to issue a report every year telling the public what they plan to do when Social Security and Medicare go bankrupt. Shut up, Rogue. We will protect the integrity of American democracy and stop left-wing efforts to regulations. You're the one trying to overturn the election result. Your party is. I don't know what Rick Scott's opinion on Stop the Steal is, but based on the fact he's tried to suck off Trump already, I'm going to guess that he thinks it was, and based on the fraud in the title, I'm going to say that he thinks it was rigged, even though it wasn't. Today's Democratic Party is trying to rig elections and pack the course because they've given up on democracy. They don't believe they can win based on their ideas, so they want to game the system and legalize voter fraud to stay in power. In true Orwellian fashion, Democrats refer to their election rigging plans as voting rights. We won't allow the radical left to destroy our democracy by institutionalizing dishonesty and fraud. We'll fight for maximum voter participation. That's not a policy. And maximum voter participation, you do that by giving them something to fight for. Your policies are like the 1%'s wet dream. Voter ID requiring a voter to validate their identity must be the law. Democrats support requiring an ID to get a COVID test, vaccination card, or enter a restaurant. All arguments against voter ID are in favour of fraud. So I disagree with Democrats on this, on the COVID test, vaccination card, and restaurant bit. But I think the thing with voter ID is there are a whole lot of people, especially African Americans, who don't have ID, like facial ID. So I think it should be much easier for those who don't have a driver's license and don't have like a passport. There should be a much easier way than there is currently for them to get um, voter ID. Ballot harvesting, which Democrats favour, and which allows political operatives to collect and clone ballots from voters, must be banned. That's not what ballot harvesting is. Ballots can only be submitted to a polling station by a voter or the post office. No ballots can show up after election day will be counted ever. Oh my word. So if someone posts it and then the post office fails because you defunded it, well, the Republican Party defunded it, you're then punishing the voter for your incompetence, Rick Scott. Many Democrats now advocate allowing non-citizens to vote in American elections. New York City now does this. This is too insane for words and must be stopped. I don't know the situation in New York, and I haven't really heard any Democrats say this, but I'm going to assume that what they mean is we're going to allow immigrants who have been residents for ages to vote, which is like the most mild and common sense solution. Well, not solution, just like thought anyone has ever had. The Democrats favour using your taxpayer money to finance political campaigns. No serious person would ever favour this. It must never happen. Yeah, Rick Scott and Democrats really just want to use billionaire donations. Counting of ballots must be done in full public view expeditiously and continue without pause until all votes have been tabulated. Give people a break. They've got what 170 million votes to count on presidential election day. They need a break, mate. They need a break. There must be no same-day registration, as this does not allow election officials to verify the validity and accuracy of voter information. Why are you trying to make it difficult for people to register? You obviously don't think you can win on your ideas if you're making it difficult for people to vote. No one should be automatically registered without their consent or knowledge, as this opens the way for multiple registrations by the same individual and the registration of ineligible voters. I'm going to assume that that's just not true based on everything else that Rick Scott has said. Unmanned or unmonitored ballot boxes in public areas to collect unlimited ballots must be prohibited. I don't think those exist. No American citizen can be denied their sacred right to vote or be given special voting privileges based on race, religion, zip code, or ethnic origins. Yeah, do something about it, you moron. We will protect, defend, and promote the American family at all costs. Oh, is this the bit where he says that they support the child tax credit? I'm going to guess not, based on the fact you didn't vote for it. The nuclear family is crucial to civilization. It is God's design for humanity. Fuck. And it must be protected and celebrated. To say otherwise is to deny science. You don't get to talk about science when your party doesn't believe in climate change. The fanatical left seeks to devalue and redefine the traditional family as they undermine parents and attempt to replace them with government programs. We will not allow socialism to place the needs of the state here the family. We aren't trying to do that. No federal program or tax laws will reward people for being unmarried or discriminate against marriage. They never do. Tax laws do not discriminate against marriage. Even though many single mums historically do the job of raising a family, as my mum often had to do, children need and deserve both parents, and governments should not be shy about saying so. Divorce happens. It's shit, but it happens. You also seem to be trying to. Uh, Actually, no. I'm gonna wait until he sees something more egregious in that area. Families are crucial in raising young men and women of character and responsible members of society. The best form of governing our society is not government; it is family. Obviously, there's a place for family. Abortions are a tragedy. We must make adoption accessible and affordable. Dude, just shut up. We currently make it a very expensive and protective appearance to adopt, even though many kids desperately need families. This is insane and we will change it. We need to make sure that the parents are actually good people and they aren't going to abuse the kid or anything. We will help low income single women who are considering abortion choose life instead by paying all costs associated with carrying the child to term and placing the child for adoption. Sure, but if they choose to get an abortion, don't punish them. We will stop Democrat Party efforts to discriminate against faith-based adoption services. We will do just the opposite. Most faith-based provide fast. Many don't. Whether you believe in the magical sky wizard doesn't make you good or bad. Just like that, talking about it like it's like above everything else is bad, but just believing in it doesn't make you inherently good. And Rick Scott doesn't seem to understand that. School administrators and teachers will work for parents. No, they should work for the students. Parents, not government, will choose which schools their kids will attend. Sure. Well, we'll end the Biden administration policy of using the FBI to intimidate parents who speak up at school board meetings. Culture war, culture war, culture war, culture war. Please don't actually care about the real issues. We must defend the American family from societal elements that erode it. We must enforce existing federal obscenity laws. Our society has almost given up on demanding decency. We must aim higher. We must. That's just cultural. Like that's like 1980s old man like stupidity. We must protect our children from the explosion of pornography and cyber predators. The SEC must hold online platforms and broadband providers accountable for not adequately providing tools for parents to keep this trash out of their homes. I don't know how you do that without like harming free exploration from people. We will make it impossible for deadbeat dads to avoid paying child support, beginning with paternity. They will either pay up or go to jail with no other options. There's always room for nuance. Like dads who, like, obviously there are some who are just awful, awful people, and they should be punished for that. Probably financially rather than with prison, but um, I think there's always room for nuance, and it should be on a case by case basis, not like that. Here we go, some more culture war. Men are men, women are women, and unborn babies are babies. We believe in science. My party doesn't believe in climate change. Men and women are biologically different. Male and female, he created them. Quoting the Bible, you don't get to say you believe in science and then quote the Bible, okay? Modern technology has confirmed that abortion takes a human life. Facts are facts. The earth is round, the sun is hot, there are two genders, and abortion stops a beating heart. To say otherwise, deny science. Abortion kills human children. The child isn't alive. Whether you believe in God or not, as a civilized people who accept science, we must protect babies born and unborn from all acts of violence. I think beyond a certain point that's true. I think I think in New Zealand we have it 20 weeks, and I think that's fair. Beyond that point, sure, but before 20 weeks, accidents happen. Um, We shouldn't be trying to punish people for not going through months of hell that are pregnancy, and then 18 years of difficulty, assuming they don't put the child up for adoption. That come with child rearing, probably at quite a young age themselves. Humans are born male and female. There are two genders, and to deny that is to deny science. Oh, my word. So what? If someone wants to tell you that they're transgender, so what? How does that harm you, Rick Scott? It doesn't. It's cultural bullshit to try and distract people from actual problems that his policies cause people. No government forms will include questions about gender identity or sexual preference. No doctor will be allowed to perform irreversible surgical or gender altering procedures on any minor child. Once they become adults, they can do what they wish. Yeah, I tend to agree with that, yep. We will protect women's sports by banning biological males from competing. It's hugely unfair and would erase many of the gains women have made in athletics over the last 50 years. I think there should be a separate category for trans people. But yeah, I don't think I've got anything more to add. Americans will be free to welcome God into all aspects of our lives, and we will stop government efforts to deny our religious freedom and freedom of speech. You are the oppressors with religion. You're the one who tell atheists to shut up. You're the one who you're the ones who are very Islamophobic. You're the oppressor. You don't get to complain about oppression when you are the oppressor. The Democrat Party and their big tech allies are not merely secular, but they aren't. Joe Biden's literally a Catholic. But they have virtually created a new religion of wokeness that is increasingly hostile towards people of faith, particularly Christians and Jews. You are Christians, especially, control everything in the United States of America. They are determined to drive all mention of God out of public view. I mean, if you want to talk about God, go ahead, but I'm also going to tell you that you're wrong, because that's what free speech is. We will not be silenced, cancelled, or told what words we use by the politically correct crowd. You believe in political correctness, it's just that what you think is politically correct is different to what the woke people think is politically correct. That's the only difference. Americans will not be required to go into their core values and belief in order to conform to culture or government. Hypocrisy. We will reject both the root and adherent of cancel culture in America. That's not a policy. That's just more cultural nonsense. Every American will be free to live out their religious convictions in the public square, not only in the home or a place of worship. Sure. We will forbid. I mean, they already are. So to say that's not like some kind of brave policy stand. We will forbid government programs from discriminating against the 350,000 religious entities which operate schools, pregnancy resource centre, soup kitchens, drug addiction programs, homeless shelters, and adoption agencies. They don't. All social media platforms that censor speech and cancel people would treat like publishers and subjects legally. I agree with that. Rick Scott hasn't actually given any, to my knowledge, any legislation that would achieve that, but at least he's saying the right things. We will require big tech platforms like Facebook and Twitter to receive express content, not as a condition of use, before using Americans' personal information in any manner, and make it simple for users to opt out. Yeah, I agree with that. Fair. I'd make it a public entity. I'd make Facebook and Twitter a public entity, which means that they are subject to the First Amendment, and they don't get to sell people's data for profit. Big tech platforms will also be required to obtain user consent to sell to sell, share, or convey user data to a third-party entity. Yeah, again, I agree. It's a shame Rick Scott won't actually put any legislation forward for that. No tax dollars will be used to pay for any diversity training or other woke indoctrination that's hostile to faith. Fuck off, Rick. Churches and faith-based groups will not be forced to hire employees who disagree with their tenets and convictions. I thought you believed in free speech. Now you're telling people they shouldn't have to hire people because the speech that they say is different to the speech that they say, and you're basically telling them they should be able to discriminate against people because they've got different beliefs. We'll stop investing federal retirement dollars with woke fund manager. This guy's just trying to say the word woke as much as he can to signal to the right wing crowd, isn't he? We'll stop investing federal retirement dollars with woke fund managers and companies that put left wing politics ahead of profit. So this guy's saying that profit should be the number one important thing for retirement fund managers. Remember, the Second Amendment was established in order to protect the freedoms guaranteed in the First Amendment. So what? What does that have to do with big tech? Or religious liberty, for that matter? We're Americans, not globalists. This dude believes in every free trade deal that's ever been, or at least his party does, that's ever been, agreed upon. You don't get to complain about globalism. You do it. You agree with every war. America will be dependent on no other country. Will conduct no trade that takes away jobs and displace American workers. Countries who oppose us at the UN will get zero financial help from us. We will be energy independent and build supply chains that will never rely on our adversaries. We will only help countries that are willing to defend themselves, like Israel. Okay. We will unapologetically lead the world by example. A world without American leadership would be a very dark world. Yeah, I'm sure the Iraqis are delighted with American leadership. I'm sure they love it. Adhere to the New Monroe Doctrine. America will not allow any global entity such as China, Russia, or radical Islam to grow their presence in our hemisphere. No, we're the only imperialist power. No foreign aid to any country that habitually opposes us at the UN. The US was one of two countries, the other being Israel, that voted against making food a human right at the UN. And they're saying they would give no foreign aid to any country that opposes them at the UN. Oh, we will not pay any dues to the United States, to the United Nations, or any international organization that undermines the national interests of the USA. I think that's just trying to say that they're above international law, which they're not. We'll make our international allies pay their fair share for their own defence. We're not sending our kids to do what their kids will not do. Yeah, let's just not do war. That works for me. Our military will not be used as a peacekeeping force that exists to protect us by intimidating and killing our enemies. Yeah, let's go kill everyone we don't like. Because I believe in free speech. Nation building does not work. We will waste our treasure or troops doing it. Yeah, I agree. We will always defend our allies, starting with Israel. Ugh. Israel is literally doing apartheid. They are bombing Syria as well. In what world should you be defending them? They are worse than the Taliban in that respect. Was the Taliban? Yeah, they oppress their own people, but they don't oppress other people. They don't oppress other countries. They don't oppress other groups. Both of those countries oppress about half of their populations, which both of them is bad. And one of them then goes ahead and bombs other countries. And that's the one we treat as our ally. Jesus. We will not treat our enemies like enemies. Sorry, we will treat our enemies like enemies. I think that's just more war hawkishness. No adversarial foreign government or corporation controlled by an adversarial foreign government can purchase American land. The weather is always changing. We take climate change seriously, but not hysterically. We will not adopt nutty policies that harm our economy or the jobs. the Green New Deal, the part that these people just like pretend to not care about is the New Deal part. Fundamentally, it's an infrastructure project. It doesn't harm the economy; it helps the economy. And if the Green New Deal was implemented, the American economy would grow because they would be starting a whole new industry. We will gradually end all imports from communist China to a new regime honors basic human rights and freedoms. I agree with that. I agree with ending all unnecessary because I'd rather manufacture it in America, give Americans in the Rust Belt much better jobs. We will build supply chains that rely solely on American workers and allies. We will not be at the mercy of our enemies for medications or any essential commodities. Sure, we'll terminate any trade deal that takes away American jobs. Okay, so I was wrong about his view on trade deals. Sure, um, America will be energy independent. Sure, let's do the Green New Deal. That makes us energy independent because we're like focusing on like solar energy and wind energy and nuclear energy and nuclear energy. No, I can't be bothered reading that nor that. Okay, so that's the end of Rick Scott's hideous 11-point plan. I think I've shown you that he is a moron. I found it funny that Mitch McConnell, the turtle guy, he came out and basically said, "I don't support this," because even he, with like the worst political instincts in the world, knows that this shit ain't popular. Even Mitch McConnell, a literal moron, one of the men who has done the most damage to America ever, even he can't get behind this. And Laura Ingraham calls this populist. This is not even remotely populist. It's just cultural bullshit after cultural bullshit. He doesn't actually care about actual problems. He cares about like the woke indoctrination of kids, which isn't happening. Oh, this man hurts me. Okay, I normally don't focus on the GOP because I view them as a bit irrelevant, given that the Democrats are in power. But you guys know that from Substack. But I figured that this was too golden an opportunity to ignore. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe, whatever. I know it's a bit cringy to ask that. Do the same on Substack at accent.substack.com. Thanks for putting up with my annoying voice. I know it's annoying. And thanks for sticking with this nonsense. Ciao.